Hi, thank you all for being here today. I am joined by Susanna Poyes, who is a functional and who practices functional and Asian medicine. And today we are going to talk about menopause and some of the symptoms that we all deal with in menopause and how we can mitigate these symptoms naturally. So first of all, let's start. Susanna, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you do and how you got to where you are today and doing what you do?
Sure. Thank you. So I practice functional and Asian medicine, and I'm a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist as well. And I've been doing it well over 10 years, and I specifically specialize in women's health, hormone, and fertility. And off the bat, I was a magnet to perimenopausal and menopausal women. And the medicine route that I use, which is hormones and diet and lifestyle adjustments, works very well for it. And I think that, conventional medicine has given, or the paradigm of conventional medicine and thinking has given women this idea that menopause is the end all and it should be horrible. And it's really not if you set yourself up to it. And I actually came from a conventional medical background. I was an assistant to an OBGYN who was my mentor for many years. And then I did start to become pre-med because I thought I did want to become an OBGYN. And eventually, along that route, I noticed, because I came from a very clinical route in doing surgeries every single day. And then eventually when I decided to do pre-med, it was a lot. And I met an acupuncturist, and it blew my mind because here I am in a medical clinic and setting and then wanting to be an OBGYN myself. And I had no clue about alternative medicine or acupuncture or herbs or anything. And I met an acupuncturist, and she helped me with my hormones and my imbalances, and that I didn't even know I had. I just thought I was tired all the time because I was in college and doing a lot. And it just changed my paradigm completely. And I completely switched that route, and I went into this because being in clinic, I knew what we had to offer. We had a diagnosis, lab work, and either birth control or some form of hormone replacement therapy or surgery. And most of the time, it didn't really work because women would come back complaining of even more symptoms or more pain or things like that. And so when I came along this holistic route, I didn't see that even for myself or for these other women that I started seeing in my acupuncturist clinic and things like that. So it changed my paradigm, it changed my life, it changed my career aspect. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And I've treated thousands of patients, and I hear the same story. I go to something's wrong. I go to the doctor, the OBGYN, because I'm a woman, and I'm either given birth control pills to regulate something or some form of muscle relaxer or anti-anxiety or antidepressant to make me feel better, because now I'm thinking about what's going wrong with myself and why nothing's working. And then at a certain age, there's hormone replacement because that's the only thing that's offered, and then eventually surgery or something. And in my clinic, that's just never the case. I hear it, and then they come to me, and in 1 or 2 weeks, they're like, "Where have you been all my life?" And it's just it's magical. And so little by little, people are becoming more open to it. They're hearing about it more. There's different options, and definitely with perimenopause and menopause, it's a slippery slope because there really aren't any options other than hormone replacement. And that was a contentious topic for a while, because these are synthetic hormones that can do a lot of damage, and women still are under the impression that that's their only route, and it's really not. So there's just a lot more education that we have to give to the public and just our communities in general that there are other things. So that's what I do. I
I
give
love it.
those
I
options.
love it. And I've been through you, like you laid out my history.
Yeah.
I went to the OB/GYN. This is what she told me to do. She put me on the birth control. It didn't work, caused all kinds of other problems. And then I, found my way to a natural, process that feels so much better, So one thing that I thought we might talk about today is, and I get this complaint a lot with my clients, is belly bloating, and how this is caused by perimenopause and menopause. It's a symptom of. Can you talk a little bit about what causes that, and what are some of the things that we can do to help reduce that?
Sure, that is a huge one. It's a number one thing in clinic as well. So what happens with belly fat or belly bloating, especially after mid-30s, mid-40s, and any transition, because now I see belly fat in 28-year-olds. So number one, it is a side effect of a lot of imbalances in the body. Because you're a woman, it is going to be blamed on hormones first. So in the end, we can say that it is because there's too much cortisol, the stress hormone, that is just going up in the body. And so what happens during perimenopause in that age, so mid 40s to 50s, is that we have 3 different types of estrogen. And one of those is very, very protective. One of those is what we want the lowest amount to be, right? And estrogen protects you throughout your life. It protects women from inflammation. And so throughout our life, it's really, really high, and it's protective. Aside from the hormonal aspect, it also protects you from a lot of inflammation and a lot of triggers. So as we move into perimenopause and then menopause, estrogen goes down, obviously, but not all of it. The protective estrogen goes down. And that's when all of these other hormones like cortisol, which is the stress hormone, it goes up. And unfortunately, cortisol likes to hide in fat cells. And so it accumulates in the belly and in the thighs. And so you're seeing an imbalance in hormones because of that, but that's not really the trigger. Cortisol is a stress hormone, so it is adrenaline constantly being pumped in the body. And this happens at any age. Women are stuck in fight or flight. We have fear of, what are our kids doing? What are we going to cook for dinner? What time am I going to get home? Sitting in traffic, all of that is running through our brain and our blood every single day. And we don't really have good mechanisms to balance it out. And so eventually it hides in your fat cells. And then this really stems from liver problems. All of this really accumulates in your liver. And, it's not as simple as saying, just go do a liver cleanse or a liver flush. No, these cortisol and estrogen and progesterone, every single thing you could think of goes to be filtered in the liver. And when we hit perimenopause or menopause, the liver is stagnant. It is clogged. It's like a oil filter in your car that hasn't been changed. And that's the only thing I know about cars. Okay. You got to change the oil filter. And it's really easy to do, right? But your liver needs that throughout your entire life. And when we hit certain peaks in our age, not because it's hormonally, you're hormonally destined, but because we don't change that filter every single day, which is necessary. So at certain changes in our life, especially menopause, that filter hasn't been changed. So now we're seeing backup. We're seeing backup in all this cortisol and toxins that are affecting and staying in our fat. So that helps to bloat the belly. And it's a big sign that ultimately the root cause of all of these problems is not really hormonal in your age. It's because your liver is really stagnant throughout the 40 or 50 years of your life that really you haven't really set your lifestyle up to filter it out every single day. And that really comes back to not only your stress and your hormones, but what are you eating? What have you been eating throughout your life? What are your habits? When are you eating? What are you taking? Are the supplements even right for you? Even vitamins can clog up the liver. And so things that we think are healthy and we do ourselves really clog up the liver, and it shows. It starts to show, in your 30s, maybe you're trying to have a baby, or when you're in menopause, it starts to show up as belly fat, number one. So it's a sign of a couple of things gone wrong, but ultimately belly fat is a symptom of a bigger imbalance in your life that has to be addressed so that you can go beyond menopause with more energy than you had in your 20s. I promise it really does happen.
That sounds amazing and so needed. Just, and it's a simple explanation when you say it like that. It makes perfect sense, but we just don't think about, as a non-medical person, I don't think about everything working in conjunction. Think about it individually. So you just think, oh, this is happening. I just have to deal with this. This is just my age. There's nothing I can do. What would you say is the number one thing that that we could do, that I could do, or we females could do starting today to kind of alleviate some of that belly fat, aside from working with you, which is, I recommend everyone do, but what's like one kind of DIY tip that would give someone a small win?
Well, definitely you have to change the paradigm, right? We have to have an awareness that menopause is not a horrible thing. You do not have to have symptoms. If symptoms are coming, it's not because it's your age and it's not because it's menopause. It's because something has to be addressed that hasn't been addressed in maybe the last 10 or 15 years of your life. Okay. So we have to get empowered to know that most women should transition into menopause with way more energy, a really great sex life, and this ability to have more time for self. And if the symptoms are happening, it's part of a larger symptom, but it's not just because you're in menopause and this is your fate. Okay. So the number one thing any woman can do right now is understand your triggers. And the easiest way is set yourself up for your, for food. So B vitamins, okay? B vitamins every single day. And I don't say go out and run and get some B vitamins, but make sure you are eating foods that help your liver cleanse every single day, which are like the cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts, broccolis. Understand that food is your number one input. It is the number one data that you can control, and you can change things around a lot. It may not seem like it, because it's not like this hardcore medicine or this protocol, but it really comes down to your everyday input and food first. So B vitamins for women, because that is going to help your liver break down the toxins, break down the hormones that you have. You still have hormones. You still have tons of hormones, and filter and clean your blood. And that's your everyday. You have to look at everything as a data input, and food first, and then everything else should fall in place. If you need more help, obviously there are protocols and there are things that you may have to do that are more intense, like herbs and supplements, but you have to be very strategic with those. Food first. And, belly fat is really not about ab crunches and losing weight. The reason that is happening, maybe, you're gaining weight aside from the belly fat, is it really goes back to what's going on in the liver, what hasn't been addressed in the last 10 years that we can do. And so those are my everyday inputs. Start with the awareness, and your data input is your food. Easiest thing to do every single day. Even if you hate it, just eat one of them, and one Brussels sprout, and it really stays in your body. And And I really didn't learn to eat vegetables for a very long time. But then when you understand that food is chemistry, it really affects your body and your mind, then you will make those sacrifices.
Just to feel better. I mean, I've been a vegetarian since college, but just because you're vegetarian doesn't mean you're a healthy eater. And so I learned that a little bit later in life too, the things that I needed to eliminate, and then the specific foods that you need for different, issues. But that's a big one, just the cruciferous vegetables, to get those in every day to alleviate symptoms.
That, and that, I'm glad you bring up food and healthy. When I was first starting the holistic path, I thought, okay, I'm going to eat healthy, and I became a vegetarian for a couple of years. And I think I was at my most unhealthiest as a vegetarian. I gained the most weight that I've ever had in my life. And when I went back to my normal eating, all that, balanced out. But where people go wrong, especially women, is the first thing we do in getting healthy is we change the way we eat. And which is intuitively what you're supposed to do. Like I just said, if food is your data, you have to change the way you eat. But unfortunately, like I did, I followed a fad diet and a frame of mind kind of thinking. So vegetarian, vegan, keto, paleo, plant-based, we all go in that direction when we're thinking of eating healthy, or now there's clean eating. I don't know what that means, but there is no clean eating when we look at the environment. And this is the number one thing when women come to me, they're like, well, I don't know what's wrong. I've been to this person. I changed my diet. I'm doing keto now, or I've done paleo, or I'm a vegetarian. And a lot of these fad diets are actually the most unhealthy thing you could do. And so when I work with women, I try to set you up to not eat as with a fad diet, which are only set up to sell you supplements. That's what there is. The science is very, very null on it. And these are high saturated fat and protein diets that congest the liver and set you up for failure, especially keto. Keto has been shown, men do well on it because they don't have the excess hormones that women have to process. And so keto eventually may make you feel good in 6 months or 3 months, and you may be getting good results. You might have lost weight, but it's completely unsustainable. And it's not the way we eat, in the wild or anything like that. Your body, your liver can't sustain that amount of fat and protein and things like that. And so I don't advocate a fad diet, because you have to eat the way your body is designed, and that never changes. Okay. So we can't, that doesn't change ever. Diets change all the time, but your body it's built a certain way, and you have to eat for your hormones, because you are a woman with hormones. Just because you are going through menopause doesn't mean your hormones go away and you don't have them. Some of them go on vacation, but they're still there. And you have to eat for your hormones, and that's where you're going to get the success. That's where the belly fat's going to melt away. That's where the hormones, the happy hormones, the ones that lift up your mood and your libido, those will be supported. So you have to ultimately know what you're eating, your data.
Okay. I love it. I like happy hormones too. Because a lot of times we think of hormones and we think of, rage and anger and frustration. It's not a happy connotation, but I like that there are happy hormones, and that we can tap into them if we know what we're doing, if we're working with someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
The other issue that I know a lot of women struggle with, myself in particular, is sleep. Can we talk a little bit about sleep?
Yeah, definitely. That is a big one. Sleep has obviously has a lot to do with your habits, right? If you're going to bed at 2, 3 in the morning because you work too much, the first thing you have to do is address your habits, you know, because we can't even address sleep or insomnia without addressing, well, what are you doing at past 11 p.m. or what are you doing up at 3 in the morning, right? If you're in college, obviously this is not a conversation for you, but sleep is affected by your hormones. Again, that cortisol that we talked about, that stress hormone. After 10:30 p.m., regardless of your age, cortisol is always going to shoot up. Okay, and that's when melatonin, that hormone that you can get at the drugstore, which I do not recommend taking on your own, that's when melatonin should shoot up. But because people stay up past 10:30, the opposite happens. So cortisol, the stress hormone, shoots up, and that's adrenaline. So it keeps you up. So if you have that second wind from 10:30 or even 11 p.m. and then 11 to 2 or 1, you're like, why am I awake? And I cleaned really well and I feel really productive. That's because it's a hormone imbalance of adrenaline just shooting up, giving you that second wind. Now, when you're after 40 and 50s, again, that estrogen, that protective estrogen has declined. So that stress hormone has that opportunity to pop back up again. And so that estrogen isn't really there to protect you. So you have to be very mindful of your habits and, your blood sugar and all of these things. So it really does come back to a hormone imbalance, but it really does come back to a habit. And 10:30 is that sweet spot where you can really change things around. And so, I hope that answers the question, because if you don't sleep by 10:30, you will automatically wake up with a hormone imbalance. So in the morning, you'll feel groggy and tired. And then that leads to blood sugar issues where you want just coffee or you want, just a quick piece of toast. And that really sets up your day for more hormonal imbalances that at the end of the day, you're like you're wired and you're tired. And that is just because you keep feeding the cycle of this hormone imbalance. So I hope that answers the question as simple as I can. But it really goes down to that cortisol again, which needs to be managed. And it's not just going to a yoga class. We have to filter and cleanse, some aspects of your body to get there.
So that's kind of an individualized thing too. Like, I'm guessing like each person is holding it in a different way, in a different place. And that's what you can help with too, learning to release it.
Definitely. People have different anxieties and especially different triggers for insomnia. And so age and transition is one of them, but that transition is one of the biggest hot flashes, and insomnia are two of the top complaints in my clinic for perimenopausal women or in menopausal women in general. And they stay up at night cleaning and they're amped, but there is this wired and tired feeling. And it's because there's a deficiency somewhere in the body that is leading to this adrenaline surge that needs to be corrected. And that is over time. It's definitely possible. I mean, within 1 or 2 weeks, it's usually manageable. And but it is a little bit more unique, more self-directed. Yeah.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about how people can work with you? Are we able to work with you remotely? Do we have to be, I know you live down in Southern California. Do we have to be local? Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. Right now, most of my clients are remote. They're across, I work with women across the country and do health consultations into health programs, because when you're dealing with something, a transition or any hormone imbalance, or I think full body imbalance is the right term, you need to give yourself a minimum of 3 months, eventually 6 months if you're dealing with something, menopause and hypothyroidism, some deeper issues, So it's a minimum of 3 months to regulate any aspect of your body, and 6 months if it's really intense, and there's other things going on. But I do work with one-on-one every single week with you as we work through the program. So you can definitely, I can give you a link to my contact information, and then we can set up a call, a breakthrough session, so that I can know what your unique symptoms are, what your unique presentations are, what's showing up for you, and what your health goals are. And ultimately, you do want to sleep and you want to feel good, but you want to look good too. But, you know, and so that's very unique to you. So I have to get on the call with you and then see, you know, if you, I can definitely help you. And so everybody's unique in that way. And,
Okay.
you know, I do use herbs and supplements and other, mostly a lot of lifestyle tricks that can easily be done from anywhere in the world.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely get all of the Susanna's contact information and website and any kind of freebie or anything she has, and make sure that everyone has access to that, so we know how to get in touch with you. Is there anything else that you would like to add today as any kind of takeaway?
Well, just know that hormone replacement therapy is not the end all and the be all. There are tons of alternatives. I have women in their 60s. They've been with me for 10 years of their journey, their perimenopausal journey. I have women who, like I said, even from my clinic, when I had my clinic in San Francisco, they're still with me remotely, and they've never done hormone replacement therapy. And they talk to me every other month, and they either get herbs or things like that from me, and they have more energy and they feel better than they did in their 20s and their 30s. And it's pretty remarkable to hear. And just know that the majority of the global population does not take hormone replacement therapy, and they are fine. They are not suffering from osteoporosis. Their hips aren't breaking or fracturing. They don't need, you know, certain things that we are told in this country that you may need. And so just have that openness to new information, and just know that there are other alternatives, and really believe in that, because it has worked for millions of women throughout the world. So let it be open to you, and just receive that information.
I love that. I love that. I think that's amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Susanna. This was really insightful for me, and I'm sure for lots of people listening. So I'll be sure to include all of your contact information so people know how to reach out and get in touch with you.
Yes, that was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.